Imagine being told to leave your parents' house on Thanksgiving just because your sister doesn't want to see you. That's what happened to me last year, and it broke something inside me that I don't think can ever be fixed. Stay with me while I tell you how it all started, and if my story hits your heart even a little, I'd appreciate it if you showed some love. Share it, like it, or just listen till the end. My name's Mia Carter. I'm 32, and I'm raising my 7-year-old son Eli on my own. It's not the life I planned, but it's ours. I work hard, I pay my bills, and I try to give Eli a happy home. But when it comes to my family, my parents, Rick and Marlene, and my younger sister, Chloe, things have never been simple. There was a time when Chloe and I were close. She used to follow me everywhere when we were kids, always wanting to do what I did. But as we got older, something in her changed. She started competing with me for everything: attention, friends, even boys. The final straw came years ago when she told everyone I stole her boyfriend, which was a complete lie. He and I were never together, but that didn't matter. She spread the story anyway, and people believed her. Even our parents. Since then, I've been the family's problem child. Every misunderstanding somehow turns into Mia's fault. My parents say they love me, but their actions tell another story. I try to brush it off for Eli's sake. He loves his grandparents. I never wanted to take that from him. A few weeks before Thanksgiving, my mom called me out of the blue. Her voice was sweet, softer than I remembered. She said, "Honey, it's time to be family again. Chloe will be there, but maybe this can be a fresh start." I hesitated. Every year ends in tears or arguments, and I promised myself I wouldn't put Eli through that again. But Mom sounded sincere this time. I wanted to believe her. So I said yes. The days leading up to Thanksgiving were tense. I kept telling myself, maybe it'll be different. Maybe Chloe's grown up. Eli was so excited to see Grandma and Grandpa. He even drew them a card with a big turkey on it. Watching his little face light up gave me hope. The night before the dinner, I stayed up late baking Eli's favorite pumpkin pie. He sat on the counter, swinging his legs and sneaking spoonfuls of filling when he thought I wasn't looking. His laughter filled the kitchen, and for a moment, everything felt perfect. As I slid the pie into the oven, I whispered to myself, "This time, it'll be okay." I didn't know it yet, but that pie would never even make it to the table. The moment I pulled into my parents' driveway, my stomach twisted. The house looked the same as it always had. White shutters, porch light glowing, the smell of roasted turkey drifting through the air. But it didn't feel like home anymore. Eli sat in the back seat, kicking his legs and grinning. "Are we late, Mom?" he asked. "No, buddy," I said, forcing a smile. "Right on time." When we stepped inside, the warmth of the house hit me, but so did the silence. Chloe was already there, sitting at the table with her husband, Landon. Her smile was sharp, her eyes cold. "Wow," she said, lifting her wine glass. "You actually came." My mom, Marlene, rushed forward and hugged Eli first. "Oh, there's my little man," she said, her voice high and nervous. Then she turned to me with that tight smile she uses when she's pretending everything's fine. "Mia, honey, you look tired." "Hi, Mom," I said, ignoring the jab. My dad gave a short nod from his chair. No hug. No warmth. Just a glance before turning back to carve the turkey like it was the most important job in the world. We sat down, and the tension wrapped around me like a heavy coat. Chloe started right away. "So, Mia, still working that diner job? That must be fun." Landon chuckled under his breath, like she'd told the best joke of the night. I smiled tightly. "It pays the bills. And Eli's happy. That's what matters." Chloe leaned back, smirking. "Sure. Not everyone can be lucky enough to marry well." Eli looked up from his plate, his eyes wide. "Aunt Chloe, Mom says being kind is better than being lucky." The room went still. My dad coughed. My mom stared down at her potatoes. Chloe's face twitched. "Kids say the funniest things," she muttered. I wanted to leave right then, but I stayed quiet. For Eli. For the promise of peace. But Chloe didn't stop. Every few minutes, another jab about how some people never grow up, or how responsible adults don't run away from family. Finally, I said softly, "You know, Chloe, maybe we could just enjoy dinner instead of digging at each other." My father slammed his fork down. "Mia, you always have to start something. Can't you just let it go for once?" I froze. My voice caught in my throat. "I didn't start anything," I said quietly. He shook his head, glaring. "Every time you're here, there's drama." And that's when it hit me, they believed her. Every lie, every story Chloe ever told, they believed. Chloe sighed dramatically. "You know what? I can't even eat near her. She's ruining the whole dinner. My mom looked between us, tears already in her eyes. Maybe it's best if you go, Mia. Just for tonight. Eli's fork slipped from his hand and clattered onto the plate. I took his hand, stood up, and nodded. Come on, baby. As we walked to the door, Chloe whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. Some people never learn when they're not wanted. She was right about one thing. I'd finally learned. I stood in the doorway, my hands shaking as I reached for Eli's coat. My eyes burned, but I refused to cry in front of them. I could feel everyone watching me. The family that once felt like my whole world, now strangers sitting in silence. My mother stepped closer, her face pale, eyes wet. Please don't make this harder, honey, she whispered, her voice trembling like she already knew how cruel this was. I swallowed the lump in my throat. I'm not the one making it hard, Mom. I helped Eli slip into his jacket, buttoning it slowly just to keep my hands busy. His little face looked confused, his voice small. Mommy, why is Grandma crying? I couldn't answer. I couldn't even look at him. I just took his hand and walked out the door. Behind me, the sound of it closing felt like a full stop, a line drawn in permanent ink. Outside, the air was cold enough to sting my skin. I buckled Eli into the back seat, my fingers numb. He looked at me with wide, trusting eyes. Are we still going to eat pie when we get home? He asked. I forced a smile, but my voice cracked. Yeah, baby. We'll eat pie. The drive was silent except for the hum of the tires and the faint whistle of wind. Snow had started to fall, soft at first, then heavier, like the sky couldn't decide whether to let go or hold back. I knew the feeling. The headlights cut through the flakes, and I watched them melt against the windshield, one by one. I didn't even turn on the radio. I couldn't. By the time we pulled into our small driveway, my hands hurt from gripping the wheel. Eli was half asleep when I carried him inside. I set him on the couch, wrapped him in a blanket, and sat there staring at nothing. The pie sat on the counter, untouched, still smelling sweet and warm. I wanted to throw it against the wall, scream, cry, but I couldn't move. I'd been humiliated before, but this was different. This wasn't a fight that would blow over. This was the moment I finally saw the truth. My family didn't see me as one of them anymore. I was the outsider they tolerated until it became inconvenient. And they made that clear tonight. I buried my face in my hands, the weight of every year pressing down on me. The lies, the blame, the pretending, it all came crashing in at once. And through the fog of my thoughts, I heard Eli's sleepy voice. Mom, did I do something bad? I looked up and my heart broke clean in two. He wasn't supposed to feel this kind of pain, not at 7 years old. I pulled him into my arms and kissed his forehead. No, baby, I whispered, my voice barely holding steady. You didn't do anything wrong. I looked toward the window, snow still falling outside, soft and endless. They did. The weeks after Thanksgiving felt like walking through cold fog. Every morning I woke up half expecting my phone to buzz, hoping maybe my mom had called. Maybe my dad had changed his mind. But the screen stayed black. No calls. No messages. Nothing. Just silence that stretched so long it started to feel like punishment. I tried to keep myself busy. I picked up every extra shift I could at the diner. The tips weren't great, but the noise, the movement, it kept my mind from spinning. The smell of coffee and bacon grease clung to my clothes no matter how many times I washed them. Still, it felt better than sitting at home thinking about the way my father looked at me that night, like I was the problem he wished would disappear. Eli was my only reason to keep going. Every morning, he'd run into my room, his hair sticking up like a dandelion, and whisper, "Mom, you're late again," before laughing. I'd scoop him up, kiss his forehead, and pretend like everything was okay. I didn't want him to see how empty I felt. At work, there was one person who noticed, the only one who ever asked how I was really doing. Tamara. She worked the register, always chewing gum, always saying what everyone else was too polite to. One slow afternoon, she slid a cup of coffee toward me and said, "You look like you're carrying a whole building on your back, girl." I shrugged. "Family stuff." "Your mom again," she guessed. I gave a half smile. "You could say that." Tamara leaned in. "Let me give you some advice. Stop waiting for people who've already decided you're the villain in their story. You can't make them love you by bleeding for them." Her words hit me harder than I wanted to admit. She was right. I'd spent my whole life trying to prove to my parents that I wasn't who Chloe said I was. And every time, they sided with her. By the second week, the silence from them started to sound like mockery. Then the rumors began. A customer at the diner, Mrs. Dempsey, whispered to a friend. "Did you hear what Mia did at Thanksgiving?" Through a tantrum, poor Marlene was in tears. I froze while pouring coffee. They didn't even notice I was standing there. I knew exactly where the story came from. Chloe. Something inside me snapped that day. I went home, opened my laptop, and started digging. Old texts, screenshots, voicemails. Every lie, every fake apology Chloe ever sent me. I saved it all. Not because I knew what I'd do with it yet, but because I was done being the quiet one. Late that night, after Eli fell asleep, I sat by the window, watching snow drift over the streetlights. My anger didn't burn anymore. It chilled me sharp and clear. For the first time, I wasn't sad. I was focused. Whatever came next, it wouldn't be silence. It was a slow Tuesday night at the diner, the kind where the clock seems to drag just to test your patience. The neon sign outside buzzed against the window, and the smell of burnt coffee lingered in the air. Tamara leaned against the counter, scrolling through her phone while I wiped down tables. The place was nearly empty when she suddenly looked up and said, "Mia, you're not going to believe what I just saw last night." I didn't look up. "What now? Another fight at the bar?" She shook her head, lowering her voice like she was about to spill state secrets. "No, girl. Your sister's husband. Landon." I froze, my rag still in my hand. "What about him?" Tamara's eyes widened. "He was at the Redwood Hotel bar. And he wasn't alone. There was this woman, young blonde, laughing like she owned the place. His hand was on her leg the whole time." I almost said something, but then I thought, nah, not my circus. For a second, I couldn't speak. My first instinct was to dismiss it. People gossip, people assume. But Tamara wasn't the type to lie for attention. I felt a rush of satisfaction mixed with disgust, and I hated myself for it. Chloe had spent years painting me as the family disgrace, and now her perfect little marriage was rotting from the inside. I tried to shake it off. "It's not my business," I said. "Let her figure it out." Tamara raised a brow. "If it were me, I'd want someone to tell me." "Yeah," I said, "but she's not you." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying Thanksgiving in my head. Chloe's smug smile, her husband's fake charm, my father's angry voice. Every part of it burned. I didn't owe them anything, but something inside me wanted the truth. Maybe not for her, but for me. So the next day, during my break, I did a little checking. Landon worked for an insurance company downtown. I knew one of his co-workers, a regular at the diner named Karen. She came in every Thursday for pie and decaf. I asked her casually how things were at work, and she sighed. "Busy. Landon's been spending a lot of time with that new girl, Madison. You know how office rumors go." That was enough. It wasn't just a rumor, it was real. I sat there in the booth after Karen left, my heart pounding. Chloe had no idea. I drove home that night feeling something strange, half pity, half power. I could destroy her if I wanted. One word, one message, and her perfect world would crack wide open. But I didn't. Not yet. Instead, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my phone, wondering if karma ever gets tired of waiting. Maybe it needed a little push. Maybe, just this once, I could be the one to deliver it. My phone rang early on a Saturday morning, the sound slicing through the quiet like a knife. I almost didn't answer when I saw my dad's name on the screen. It had been months since I'd heard his voice, and for a second, I wondered if maybe he dialed the wrong number. Still, I swiped to answer. "Dad." There was a pause. Then his voice came, low and careful. "Mia, it's been a while." "Yeah," I said, my tone flat. "It has." He cleared his throat like he was trying to swallow something sharp. "Listen, your sister's having some troubles with Landon. They're separated right now. She's not doing so good." I let the silence hang. He didn't deserve to rush through it. Finally, I said, "Okay?" He sighed. "She needs her sister right now. Maybe you could come by, talk to her. You know how she can be." I actually laughed, short, bitter. "You want me to comfort her? After everything she's done to me?" "Mia," he said, like I was being unreasonable. "This isn't the time to bring up the past. Family should be there for each other." That line hit me harder than I expected. Family should be there for each other. The same man who told me to leave on Thanksgiving was now asking for my help like none of it ever happened. I almost hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. "Fine," I said finally. "I'll come." When I pulled up to my parents' house, it looked smaller somehow. The porch light flickered, and the garden my mom once kept perfect was full of weeds. My dad met me at the door, surprised I actually showed up. "She's in the living room," he said. She's been crying all morning. Chloe was slumped on the couch, mascara streaked down her face, hair tangled. The sight almost made me feel sorry for her. Almost. She looked up when she saw me. Mia, her voice cracked. I should have listened to you about men. I stood there for a second, trying to find the right words, but nothing came. So I just sat across from her and watched her cry. She talked in circles, how Landon had been distant for months, how she'd caught him lying about late nights at work, how he finally admitted there was someone else. I knew all of it already, but hearing it from her mouth made it real. My mom hovered in the doorway, wringing her hands, whispering, "Poor Chloe," like it was some kind of prayer. Chloe looked at me through tears. "You must be so happy. You warned me, and I didn't listen." I leaned back in the chair, my voice calm. "I'm not happy, Chloe, but I'm not surprised either." Her face fell. For once, she had no comeback. No clever insult. Just silence. And in that silence, I realized something. I didn't need their approval. I didn't need to beg for space at their table. The balance had shifted, and for the first time in years, I wasn't the one sitting in the wrong seat. Chloe sat slumped on the couch, staring blankly at the floor, her face swollen from hours of crying. I stood by the window, watching the gray afternoon light stretch across the carpet. The air in the room was heavy, thick with unspoken words. She sniffled softly and muttered, "I don't even know where to start. I don't know how to fix this." I turned to her slowly. "You can't fix something that was broken long before it cracked, Chloe." She looked up, confusion flashing in her eyes. "What's that supposed to mean?" I took a deep breath. My heart was beating fast, but my voice stayed steady. "It means Landon didn't just wake up one day and decide to cheat. This was happening for a while." Her face tightened. "How would you know that?" I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, and opened the photos I'd saved, the ones Tamara had shown me, the messages I'd found. I handed it to her. "Because I've known for weeks." Chloe's hand trembled as she scrolled through the pictures. Landon sitting at the hotel bar, his hand on another woman's leg. Text messages filled with heart emojis and hotel room numbers. Her breath hitched. Then she screamed, a sound that wasn't anger or sadness but pure disbelief. "Where did you get this?" she demanded. "I had a friend who saw him," I said quietly. "I didn't want to tell you at first. I thought maybe it wasn't my place. But then I remembered all the times you made sure I had no one on my side. Maybe the truth is finally your turn to face." She threw the phone onto the couch, her whole body shaking. "You wanted this to happen. You wanted me to hurt." I took a step closer, my tone still calm, almost gentle. "No, Chloe. You did this to yourself. You lied about me for years, destroyed my reputation, turned our parents against me. And for what? To look better? To feel loved? You can't build happiness on lies. Sooner or later, it all collapses." My mom's voice came from the hallway. "What's going on?" She and my dad rushed in. Mom's face was pale. Dad looked annoyed at first, then concerned when he saw Chloe's tears. Chloe pointed at me, her voice cracking. "She's lying. She's trying to ruin me." I turned to them calmly. "No, I'm not. Landon's been cheating on her for months. I have proof. But that's not the real story here. The real story is how you both chose to believe everything bad she ever said about me. You never asked for my side. You just assumed I was the problem." Dad's face drained of color. Mom covered her mouth, tears spilling over. "Mia, we didn't know." "Of course you didn't," I said softly. "You never wanted to." For a moment, nobody spoke. The only sound was Chloe's sobbing and the faint tick of the clock. I felt no joy, no satisfaction, just a strange kind of peace. For once, the truth was louder than her lies. Landon moved out a week later. My mom told me over the phone, her voice quiet and tired, like someone who'd finally run out of excuses. "He came by, packed his things, didn't even say goodbye," she said. I could hear the clinking of dishes in the background, the sound of her trying to fill the silence with something ordinary. "Chloe's, she's not taking it well." I didn't respond right away. Part of me wanted to say, now she knows what it feels like to be left behind, but the words stuck in my throat. "I'm sorry she's going through that," I said instead, even though I wasn't sure I meant it. In the days that followed, Chloe fell apart. She called our parents constantly, crying, begging them to come over. My mom spent most of her time at her house, cooking, cleaning, trying to hold her together. My dad, who once barked orders and judgments like clockwork, just sat quietly when I saw him, like he didn't know what to say anymore. When he did look at me, it was quick, just a flicker of shame before his eyes dropped to the floor. They all knew now. They knew they'd chosen the wrong daughter. And I didn't need to rub it in. The silence between us said everything. I stayed busy at the diner, working, saving, keeping my head down. Tamara would catch me smiling sometimes and shake her head. You're too calm for someone who just got the best revenge life could hand out. It's not revenge, I told her one night as we closed up. It's just finally being free. She nodded slowly. Freedom looks good on you. Word spread quickly around town. People always talk. At first, I hated the whispers, but this time, the rumors didn't hurt me. They helped me. Customers who used to glance away when I brought their coffee now looked me in the eye. One woman, Mrs. Dempsey, who had once spread Chloe's Thanksgiving version of events, actually left a $20 tip and said softly, "You didn't deserve what they did to you." I didn't need to defend myself anymore. The truth had legs now. It walked on its own, and for once it was walking in my favor. At home, Eli and I found our rhythm again. I'd come home tired, but seeing him coloring at the kitchen table, humming to himself, made everything feel lighter. We baked cookies one weekend, and he looked up at me, his cheeks dusted with flour. "You're happy again, Mom," he said. I smiled. "Yeah, baby. I think I am." The peace was quiet, almost fragile. No phone calls from my parents, no late-night apologies, no drama. Just space. And I didn't fill it with anger or regret. I filled it with Eli's laughter, with long walks, with quiet nights where I didn't feel like I had to prove anything to anyone. I didn't win loudly. I just stopped losing. When November rolled around again, I didn't even realize Thanksgiving was near until Eli came home from school with a paper turkey he'd made in class. He handed it to me proudly, his little fingers still smudged with glue. "Can we take this to Grandma's this year?" he asked, eyes shining. The question caught me off guard. I hadn't planned on going. Last year's Thanksgiving had left a scar too deep to touch. But that night, my phone rang, and my mom's name appeared on the screen. I almost let it ring out, but something made me answer. "Mia," she said softly, her voice shaking a little. "Your father and we'd like you and Eli to come for Thanksgiving. Things are different now. Please." I didn't say yes right away. I just listened to her breathing on the other end, the same woman who once whispered, "Please don't make this harder, honey," as she asked me to leave. After a long pause, I said, "I'll think about it." For the next few days, I wrestled with it. Tamara told me not to go. "You don't owe them a thing," she said, slapping a stack of receipts onto the counter. "You already got your piece. Don't trade it for guilt." But Eli kept talking about seeing his grandparents. He missed them in a way only kids can, pure, simple, without the weight of history. So, on Thanksgiving morning, I packed a small bag, helped him into his little coat, and said, "Okay, baby. Let's go." When we pulled into the driveway, the house looked smaller, older. The porch light was dim, and a few shingles hung loose from the roof. Inside, the smell of turkey and cinnamon filled the air, but it didn't feel the same. Chloe was there, sitting quietly at the end of the table, her face pale and tired. She didn't look up when I walked in. My mom rushed over and hugged Eli tight. "My sweet boy," she whispered. When she turned to me, tears were already spilling down her cheeks. "I'm so sorry, Mia." My dad cleared his throat, his voice rough. "I was wrong. About everything. You didn't deserve that." For a moment, I didn't say anything. I just looked around the table, at Chloe staring at her plate, at my parents waiting for me to say something that would make it all better. But I wasn't there to fix them. "I forgive you," I said finally, my voice steady. "But not for you, for me. Because I don't want to carry it anymore." They nodded, both crying quietly. I looked at Chloe, but she still wouldn't meet my eyes. Maybe she couldn't. Maybe that was her punishment. After dinner, I stood taking Eli's hand. "You kicked me out once," I said, not angry, just calm. "Don't expect me to come back the same person." The room fell silent. I walked to the door, Eli's small hand warm in mine. This time, when I left, it wasn't because they told me to. It was because I chose to. A year later, life felt softer, quieter, almost unrecognizable. The air didn't feel heavy anymore, and mornings weren't something I dreaded. I woke up before the sun, unlocked the door to my little cafe, and turned on the lights. The sign out front read Eli's table in simple gold letters. The first time I saw it lit up, I cried. It wasn't just a name. It was a promise, to myself, to my son, to the life we built from everything they tried to break. The place smelled like coffee and warm cinnamon every morning. Locals stopped by for muffins, pie, and conversation. Some days were slow, some were packed, but every day felt like mine. Eli loved helping after school. He'd run behind the counter, tie on a tiny apron, and say, "Mom, I'm the assistant manager today." I'd laugh and tell him he was promoted again. My parents came by sometimes. Never together, always separately. My dad would order coffee, black, and sit by the window pretending to read the paper. My mom would come in on Fridays, leaving with a small box of pastries she never finished. We'd talk politely, whether Eli's school, the cafe, but never about the past. They looked at me differently now, like they were still trying to understand how I built something without their approval. I let them sit in that confusion. Chloe never came. I'd hear about her from other people in town, how Landon finalized the divorce, how she'd moved back into my parents' house for a while, how she still told everyone it wasn't her fault. Maybe she really believed that. I didn't waste energy thinking about her anymore. The anger that once burned so hot had cooled into something still, something calm. One afternoon, as I wiped down the counter, I caught a glimpse of my reflection in the cafe window. I looked different, stronger somehow. The kind of woman who didn't flinch at silence, who didn't beg to be understood. For years, I thought revenge had to be loud, a grand explosion that made everyone finally see. But standing there, in my own place, surrounded by peace I'd built with my own hands, I understood something else. Sometimes, revenge isn't about proving anyone wrong. It's about living without needing to. I walked to the back where Eli was in the kitchen, his little voice carrying through the air. "Mom, the pies are done," he shouted, excitement bubbling in every word. I smiled, that familiar ache rising in my chest, the good kind this time. The smell of pumpkin and sugar filled the room. The same scent from that night a year ago when everything fell apart. Only now it didn't hurt to remember. It felt full, whole, healed. I turned off the lights in the front and called back, "I'm coming, buddy." The world outside was quiet, the sign of Eli's table glowing softly in the evening light. For the first time in a long time, everything felt exactly where it belonged. If Mia's story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life stories that hit straight to the heart. Your support helps us keep sharing voices that deserve to be heard.